The mist came first, then the silence, and when I finally looked up through the redwoods, I saw something that shouldn't exist, something watching, something that had been waiting in those trees for longer than any of us could imagine. Few people talk about what happens deep in the Northern California Redwoods, the ancient groves where sunlight dies before it reaches the ground, where the fog moves like something alive, where hikers vanish and their cameras tell stories no one wants to believe. This is what really happened beneath those 1,000-year-old giants. My name is Marcus. I was a forest ranger at Redwood National Park for 11 years. What I'm about to tell you happened in October of 2019, and it's the reason I don't work there anymore. It started with a missing person report. A solo hiker named David Chen, 32 years old, experienced outdoorsman. He'd checked in at the ranger station 3 days earlier, planning a 2-day trek through the Grove of Titans. When he didn't check out, we went looking. The Grove of Titans is off-trail, protected. Most tourists never see it. The trees there are among the oldest living things on Earth, some over 2,000 years old, 300 feet tall, so massive that when you stand beneath them, you feel like an insect, like you've entered a cathedral built by something that existed before humanity learned to speak. We found his tent on the second day of searching, set up properly, sleeping bag still inside, backpack leaning against a tree. His phone was there too, fully charged, but David Chen was gone. What we found on that phone still wakes me up at night. Before you turn off the lights, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Here at Chills from Reality, every story leaves a mark, one you might not forget. The phone's gallery had 47 photos. The first 20 were normal. Shots of the redwoods, ferns, moss-covered fallen giants, the kind of pictures anyone would take. Beautiful, peaceful. Then they changed. Photo 21 was taken at dusk, a clearing among the trees. In the background, barely visible through the mist, there was a shape, dark, tall. It looked humanoid, but the proportions were wrong. The arms too long, the head too narrow. Photo 22 was closer. The shape had moved. It was standing behind a tree, half hidden. You could see part of what might have been a face, pale, smooth, like bark that had grown into the shape of human features. Photo 23 showed the same clearing, but the shape was gone. Just fog and ferns and the darkening forest. Then there was a gap. No photos for 3 hours. Photo 24 was taken at 11:47 p.m. inside the tent. The camera pointed at the tent wall. You could see the shadow of something outside, standing there, not moving, just standing. The next photos were all taken in rapid succession, 12 pictures in less than a minute, each one showing the tent wall, the shadow getting larger, closer. In the final photo, you could see the outline of a hand pressed against the fabric from outside. Long fingers, too many joints. The last photo on the phone was time-stamped at 3:12 a.m. It was blurry, dark, but you could make out the interior of the tent, the sleeping bag unzipped and empty, and in the corner of the frame, barely visible, there were eyes reflecting the camera flash, pale yellow eyes, too high off the ground to be an animal. We never found David Chen. The search went on for 2 weeks. Dogs, helicopters, volunteers, nothing. He had simply vanished into the redwoods like smoke into fog. But I kept thinking about those photos, about that shape in the mist, about the shadow outside his tent. 3 months later, I was on a routine patrol near the same area. It was early morning. The fog was thick, so thick you couldn't see more than 20 feet in any direction. The redwoods rose up like columns holding up the sky. Everything was quiet, that deep, heavy silence you only get in old-growth forests. I was checking trail markers when I heard it. Footsteps behind me, slow, deliberate, the sound of something heavy walking through the ferns. I turned around. Nothing there, just mist and trees and shadow. I kept walking. The footsteps continued, always the same distance behind me, always matching my pace. I stopped. The footsteps stopped. I started walking again. They started again. My radio crackled, static. Then a voice, broken, distant. It sounded like it was saying my name, but the voice was wrong, too deep, too hollow, like someone speaking from the bottom of a well. I tried to respond, more static, then silence. The footsteps were getting closer now. I could hear branches breaking, ferns rustling, something moving through the underbrush with purpose, with intent. I started walking faster, not quite running, not yet. Rangers don't run. We're trained to stay calm, to be rational. But every instinct in my body was screaming at me to move. The fog shifted. For just a moment I saw it, standing between two massive redwoods about 30 feet away. Tall, so tall, at least 8 feet, maybe more. The proportions were wrong. Arms that hung too low, a head that was too narrow and too long. Its skin looked like bark, gray-brown, textured, but it moved like flesh, like something alive. It was watching me. I could feel its eyes, even though I couldn't see them clearly through the mist. I did run then. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I ran through that forest like something was chasing me, because something was. I could hear it behind me, moving faster now, branches snapping, the ground shaking with each footfall. I didn't look back, didn't stop. I just ran until I broke through the tree line and into the parking area. My truck was there. I got in, locked the doors, started the engine. In the rearview mirror, I saw it emerge from the tree line, just for a second, standing at the edge of the forest, watching. Then it stepped back into the shadows and disappeared. I filed a report, told them everything. They sent a team to investigate. Found nothing, no tracks, no evidence. They said it was probably a bear. Stress, the isolation playing tricks on my mind. But I know what I saw, and I know I wasn't the only one. 2 weeks after my encounter, a family of 4 went missing in the same area. The Hendersons, parents and 2 teenage daughters. They were experienced campers. They knew the trails. They had permits, GPS devices, satellite phones. They never came back. Search and rescue found their campsite. Everything was there. Tents, food, gear, even their phones. But the family was gone, just vanished. One of the daughters had been keeping a journal. We found it in her tent. The last entry was dated the night they disappeared. I'll never forget what it said. Something is watching us from the trees. We can all feel it. Dad says it's nothing, but I saw it move. It's tall, so tall, and it doesn't walk like a person. It moves wrong. Mom wants to leave, but it's getting dark. We're going to wait until morning. I can hear something outside the tent, breathing, heavy breathing, like something big. I'm scared. I'm really scared. That was the last thing she wrote. The Park Service closed that section of the forest. Officially, they said it was for trail maintenance. But we knew. We all knew. Would you have stayed in that tent? Would you have trusted your eyes when the mist showed you something impossible? Tell me below. I quit 3 months later. Couldn't take it anymore. Every time I went into those woods, I felt watched, followed, hunted. But the story doesn't end there, because the redwoods are vast, hundreds of thousands of acres, and people keep going missing. 1 or 2 every year. Solo hikers, experienced outdoorsmen. They check in at the ranger station and never check out. Their tents are always found, set up properly, gear intact, but the people are gone, just gone. And sometimes their cameras tell stories that no one wants to believe. The second story begins with a sound. Sarah Mitchell was a wildlife photographer. She'd been documenting the Northern California Redwoods for a conservation project, spent 6 months living in a small cabin on the edge of the forest. She knew those woods better than anyone. In her field notes from March 2021, she described hearing something she called the hum, a low-frequency sound that seemed to come from deep within the forest. Not mechanical, not animal, something else, something that made her teeth ache and her vision blur. She wrote that it started just after sunset, a vibration in the air, so low you felt it more than heard it. It would last for hours, pulsing, rhythmic, like a heartbeat, but massive, ancient, wrong. The local indigenous tribes had stories about the hum. They called it the breath of the old ones. They said it was the sound of something that lived beneath the roots of the eldest trees, something that had been there before the redwoods, before the mountains, before the ocean carved the coastline. They said, when you heard the hum, you were supposed to leave immediately. Don't pack, don't hesitate, just walk away and don't look back. Sarah didn't leave. She wanted to record it, document it, prove it existed. Her last journal entry was dated March 23rd. She wrote about following the hum deeper into the forest, past the marked trails, into areas where the trees grew so close together that sunlight couldn't penetrate, where the ground was soft with centuries of fallen needles, where the air smelled like earth and time and something else, something organic and old and wrong. She wrote about finding a clearing, a perfect circle about 50 feet across, no trees, no undergrowth, just bare earth, dark, almost black. And in the center of that clearing, there was a hole, not a cave, not a burrow, a hole, perfectly round, about 6 feet in diameter, going straight down into the earth. She couldn't see the bottom. She dropped a rock, never heard it hit. The hum was coming from the hole, louder now, strong enough that she could feel it in her chest, in her bones. It was calling to her. That's how she described it. Calling, like something down there knew she was listening, like it wanted her to come closer. She set up her camera equipment, started recording. The footage was later found at her cabin. 43 minutes of recording. For the first 30 minutes, nothing happens. Just Sarah adjusting her equipment. The sound of the hum getting gradually louder. Her breathing getting faster, more labored. Then she starts talking to herself, muttering. The words don't make sense. They're not English, not any language anyone could identify, but she's saying them with conviction, like she's responding to someone, like someone is talking to her. At the 37-minute mark, she stands up, walks toward the hole. The camera is still recording. You can see her silhouette against the trees. She's moving strangely, not quite walking, more like floating, like something is pulling her. She reaches the edge of the hole, stops, looks down. Then she speaks, clear, calm, her last words on the recording. "I understand now, I see. I'm coming home." She steps into the hole and disappears. The camera kept recording for another 6 minutes, just the empty clearing, the hole, the hum. Then the battery died. Sarah Mitchell was never found. The search team located the clearing she'd described, found the hole, but when they tried to measure its depth, their equipment failed. Ropes didn't reach the bottom. Cameras sent down on cables lost signal after 50 feet. The hum made people sick. Nosebleeds, disorientation, violent headaches. They filled it in, poured concrete, covered it with soil and debris. Officially, the area is closed due to unstable ground. But the real reason is something else, because the hum didn't stop. Even with the hole filled in, people still hear it deep in the redwoods at night when the fog rolls in and the trees stand like silent witnesses to something older than memory. And sometimes hikers report seeing a woman in the forest, pale, moving between the trees. She doesn't speak, doesn't acknowledge them, just walks, always heading deeper into the woods, always moving towards something only she can see. They say it's Sarah Mitchell, still looking, still following the call. The indigenous elders say the old ones are patient. They've been waiting beneath the roots for thousands of years, and they'll wait for thousands more, because time means nothing to something that old, something that existed when the world was young and the redwoods were just seeds in the soil. Could you resist that call? If something ancient whispered your name from beneath the earth, would you walk away? Or would you need to see what was waiting in the dark? The third story is the one that made me understand, the one that connected everything. In April 2022, a geology research team was conducting seismic surveys in the redwood forest, looking for fault lines, measuring subsurface structures, routine work. They found something deep, about 300 feet beneath the forest floor, a massive hollow space, chamber-like, miles across. The seismic data showed it wasn't natural. The walls were too smooth, too regular, almost architectural. But that wasn't the strange part. The strange part was what the sensors detected inside the chamber. Movement, thermal signatures. Something down there was generating heat. Something was moving. The team wanted to investigate. The Park Service denied permission, said it was too dangerous, too expensive, too impractical. But the team leader, Dr. Robert Hayes, was persistent. He pulled permits, got private funding, assembled a small crew. They were going to drill down, send cameras into the chamber, document whatever was down there. The drilling started in June. They worked in a restricted area. No tourists, no hikers, just the research team and a handful of park rangers assigned to maintain the perimeter. It took them 3 weeks to drill down to the chamber. The bit kept hitting unexpected resistance, strange rock formations, that shouldn't exist at that depth, temperatures that fluctuated wildly, equipment malfunctions, delays, but they finally broke through. June 28th, 2:15 p.m. The drill bit punched into the hollow space. The drill rig shuddered, went silent. Then the hum started, louder than anyone had ever heard it, so loud that windows shattered in the ranger station half a mile away, so loud that people in the nearby town reported feeling earthquakes that weren't earthquakes. Dr. Hayes lowered a camera into the hole, fiber optic cable, live feed to monitors on the surface. For the first 100 feet, they saw rock, soil, normal geology. Then the camera entered the chamber. The footage was confiscated by the Park Service, classified, but one of the technicians made a copy. I saw it. Once. That was enough. The chamber was massive. The camera lights couldn't reach the walls. Just endless darkness stretching in every direction. But the floor was wrong. It was moving, undulating, like something breathing, and it was covered in roots, massive roots, bigger than redwood trunks. They twisted together like veins, like arteries, pulsing, living. The camera panned across the chamber, and then it saw them, the figures standing among the roots, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, tall, silent, motionless, their skin like bark, their eyes reflecting the camera light, pale yellow, watching. They were just standing there, in perfect rows, like they'd been waiting, like they'd been asleep, and the drilling had woken them up. Dr. Hayes tried to pull the camera up. The cable went taut. Something had grabbed it. The feed showed movement. The figures were walking now, moving towards the camera, their movements wrong, disjointed, like puppets controlled by something that didn't quite understand how humans move. The feed cut out. The cable snapped. The drill rig collapsed, and the hum stopped. Just stopped. Instant silence. They tried to fill in the hole, poured concrete, but the next morning, the concrete was gone. The hole was empty, clean, like nothing had ever been there. Dr. Hayes disappeared 3 days later, walked into the forest alone, never came back. His tent was found. His journal was inside. The last entry was a single sentence, written over and over, hundreds of times, covering every page. They're climbing up. The drilling site was abandoned. The equipment left to rust. The Park Service built a fence, posted warning signs. Officially, the area is closed due to toxic soil contamination. But that's not the truth. The truth is that something is down there, beneath the redwoods. Something old. Something that's been sleeping for a very long time. And we woke it up. The disappearances have increased. 5 hikers last year, 7 the year before, always in the same general area, always experienced outdoorsmen who knew the trails, who knew the forest. Their tents are always found, always set up properly, always abandoned. And sometimes their cameras show the same thing, figures in the mist, tall, wrong, watching from between the trees. The indigenous elders say the old ones are waking, that the drilling broke something, a boundary, a seal. They say the old ones are hungry after sleeping for so long, that they're reclaiming the forest, taking back what was always there. I don't know if that's true. I don't know what's true anymore, but I know this. The Northern California Redwoods are the oldest living things in North America. Trees that were ancient when Rome was young, when the pyramids were new, when humanity was just learning to build fires and tell stories in the dark. And maybe they're not alone. Maybe something else has been there even longer, something that existed before the trees, before the mountains, before the world took the shape we recognize, something that's been waiting, watching, learning. To this day, people still go missing in the Redwoods. The Park Service calls it wilderness accidents, lost hikers, falls, animal attacks. They have explanations for everything, rational, scientific, safe. But the rangers know. We all knew. There's something in those woods, something that doesn't want to be found, but can't help being seen, something that takes people slowly, carefully, one at a time, and sometimes late at night, when the fog rolls through the ancient groves and the trees stand like cathedral pillars in the dark. You can still hear it, the hum, the breath of the old ones, calling, waiting, patient. If this story made your heart race, hit that like button and subscribe, because here at Chills from Reality, the fear doesn't end when the story does. The redwoods still stand, the mist still comes, and deep beneath the roots of the oldest trees on earth, something is still waiting, still watching, still climbing up. Sweet dreams.